This morning, someone told me Christians are commanded to never fight in war and never carry a weapon under any circumstances. So, I went back to Scripture, and what I found surprised me. Not opinions, not traditions, just the Bible. I want to speak from the heart about something that Christians have struggled with for centuries. The question is simple, but the answer is not. What does Scripture actually say? Is a Christian commanded to never fight, never serve in war, and never carry a weapon under any circumstance? Some believers sincerely believe that. And I understand why, because Jesus said something powerful in the Sermon on the Mount. In Matthew chapter 5 verse 39, Jesus said, "Do not resist an evil person. If someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also." That passage calls Christians to something radical: humility, mercy, restraint. It warns us against revenge and personal hatred. But if we want truth, real truth, we cannot stop with one verse. We must listen to all of Scripture. There is a moment when soldiers came to John the Baptist and asked him directly how they should live. In Luke chapter 3 verse 14 they asked, "What shall we do?" And John told them, "Do violence to no man, neither accuse any falsely, and be content with your wages." Notice something important. John did not tell them to abandon their profession. He told them to live justly and honorably within it. The Bible also speaks about the responsibility of governments to protect society. In Romans chapter 13 verse 4 we read, "For he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain." That passage acknowledges something difficult but real. Authority sometimes bears the sword to restrain evil. Even in the Old Testament we see God's people preparing for danger while doing righteous work. In Nehemiah chapter 4 verse 17 it says, "Those who carried burdens were loaded in such a way that each labored on the work with one hand and held his weapon with the other." They were rebuilding their homes and protecting their families at the same time. And there is another passage that often surprises people. Before his arrest, Jesus told his disciples in Luke chapter 22 verse 36, "If you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one." That statement came as Jesus warned them that dangerous times were coming. The Bible even acknowledges that God equips people for the hard realities of this world. In Psalm chapter 144 verse 1 David writes, "Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle." None of these verses celebrate violence, but together they show something deeper. Scripture does not pretend evil does not exist. The Bible calls believers to seek peace whenever possible. But it also recognizes that sometimes people stand between danger and the innocent. That is why this conversation must be handled carefully and humbly. Some faithful Christians choose the path of pacifism. Others believe defense can be morally necessary. But what we must never do is twist Scripture to fit our preferences. We must let the Word speak as it was given. And when we do, we see a balanced truth. Christians are called to be people of peace. But we are also called to be people of justice, responsibility, and protection of others. So the heart of the matter is not simply whether a person carries a weapon. The real question is this: is our heart guided by Christ? Are we acting out of pride, or out of love for our neighbor? Are we seeking violence, or trying to restrain it? Because the true Christian calling is not the sword or the plow. The calling is faithfulness to God and protection of what is right. And that truth deserves to be spoken plainly, not partially, not politically, but honestly, just as Scripture gives it. The Christian heart must always love peace, but it must never abandon the defense of what is right. So seek peace whenever you can, stand for justice when you must, and above all, walk humbly with God.